So, we have Marie Sallois and Catherine Bonnet here speaking to us about a user experience and sustainability at the center of Olympic House. Just a little bit about Marie. She's currently the Director of Corporate Development, Brand and Sustainability at the IOC. And Catherine is an architect and anthropologist who specializes in developing work environments, concepts, and designs linked to company strategies. So if we could give them a round of applause. Oh, there they are.
Like 90% of the world population, I bet you know this symbol, the Olympic symbol. And I bet you know it's all about sport. So let me invite you to move, stand up, and do some sport as we stand between you and lunch. And for those who would like to continue to move during my presentation, I don't mind, okay? So you probably know the Olympic symbol because you know the Olympic Games, especially in London, because you had them several times. But do you know that we invest every day of the year 3.4 million into sport? And a movement is active in 206 territories worldwide every day of the year. That's less known. And do you know that there is an organization behind this movement that is the leading organization that is called the International Olympic Committee, which is located in Lausanne, in a very small city in Switzerland. This is what we are going to talk about, this small organization, the International Olympic Committee. For those who would like to stand up and move, you can. For those who would like to sit, you can as well. I am standing in front of you with a lot of humility because I'm probably the one that is the least knowledgeable about real estate in this room. I knew nothing about it when I started this project. Nothing about real estate, nothing about architecture, never did a construction in my life, but all my life I had been working on transformation. In another organization, I will be called a Chief Transformation Officer. And this is why the Director General came to me with this new project. Because in his eyes, it was all about transforming the way we were working. It was not about new square meters. And you will see that the 3 fields I have in my title are very much related to the key success factors of the project itself. And because I knew I didn't know anything about it, I had to look for expertise. And this is why I have to thank you here. Because we came to Workplace Trends a few years back, and we met a lot of wonderful people, including Marie Puy-Boireau, and I found Catherine Bonnet, who is both an architect and anthropologist. And we have been talking a lot about anthropology this morning with Kilian in the first place. And it does matter as far as our project is concerned. Why have we been very lucky? We have been lucky because we had the opportunity to shape a workplace. We were not asked by the Director General to move our people to a new, already designed place or location. We have not been asked to refurbish an existing location. We have been asked to invent a workplace in a new location that didn't exist. And we could shape the brief to the architect. Why did we do this project? Because we were spread into 4 locations. We wanted to bring everyone under one roof, everyone meaning 500 people, and we wanted to have one place to welcome our visitors. We have people coming from all over the world, from heads of states to Olympians, from NGOs, to CEOs of top Fortune 500 that we mentioned earlier, very diverse group of people. And we wanted one building that we reflect what we stand for and would be the ideal workplace for our work staff. And we did that by human for human. We talk a lot about human beings this morning. It's all about user experience. And guess what? Because we didn't know anything about architecture and real estate, we didn't have any expertise, we asked our people, how do you want to work? What will be the future like? And we asked the 500 people, from top management, the people elected, the politicians, to the management, to the people at the bottom of the organization. We organized tons of workshops. We looked at how they were using the space. We looked at trends. We spoke with Marie. We met a lot of different organizations, 40 different organizations in Switzerland, in Europe, in the States, elsewhere. And we progressively defined the way we wanted to work and how the workplace should look like for us. Not applying activity-based working or any other trends. We did something tailor-made for our own needs and our own organization with our identity, where we are in Lausanne. And We spoke a lot this morning about the combination of the workplace, the physical workplace, with technology, with human resource policies. And guess what? This is part of what we called IOC at Work 2020, the way we want to work in the future. It's not just about the physical place. It's about what tools you offer your staff to work better, and it's about how you set up policies to enable them to work the way they want. So we had actually 3 programs, and this combination of the 3 programs made the success of the initiative. And you see a lot of pictures here. This is the 50 ambassadors with whom we worked even more closely. 50 people, it's about 10% of our total staff. They have been at all stages of the project part of the decision-making process. They chose even the chair and the table and how the signage should look like. They were part of everything we did. And they were representative of over 15 nationalities in the house, different functions, different hierarchical levels. So they were representing the diversity of our organization. As I said, we developed the brief before we even chose the architect. So when, out of 114 applications, through a very large international competition, we selected 12 architects to come on site to see where we were located. We did that on purpose, you will see, because we are located in a very public park, where in July, people sunbath 1 meter away from a facade, or barbecue. And it was very important for us that the architect could understand, in which environment we were. But it was equally important that they understand how we wanted to work and what we wanted to do in the building. And I remember the architect saying, I've never seen such a functional brief. You don't talk about square meters, nor cubic meters, nor distance to the parcel, nothing. There was nothing technical in it, because we trusted the experts to do the proper due diligence on that. So from the very early stage, we had 5 key success factors were defined by the whole organization, and these 5 key success factors were the key drivers throughout the 6 years of the project. They have not changed, and this is part of the success in my view. The first one, as we started the presentation, the Olympic symbol is known by 90% of the world population. So even if you wouldn't like it, if you develop a new HQ, it's definitely your new ID card of the Olympic movement. So you need to be symbolic, there is no other way. But we needed to find the right balance between symbolism and ostentatious. And you will see that we found a way to make this new workplace very simple, but it's still very Olympic. But the main reason why we did this project is not about symbolism, it's about functionality. It was about bringing everyone together, enhancing collaboration, and we talked a lot about collaboration this morning, and it was also about flexibility and human excellence. Why? Collaboration, it's about bringing people working better together. Human excellence, it's about finding the way to create a space in which everyone feels good. Why? Because again, we have a lot of diversity in a building. We have a lot of diversity among our visitors. So what is the intrinsic quality of the space that whatever your nationality, whatever your age, whatever your function, you will enjoy? It's about air quality, it's about views, it's about transparency, and light. All that people perceive. And this is perceived as quality, whatever your background. Flexibility and agility, it's not about asking our staff to be agile, it's about asking the workplace to become agile and to adapt to our needs. Because I tell you, I've been visiting a lot of people, nobody knows how we are going to work in 10 or even 20 years or 30 years. We have trends, yes, but they're outdated by the time you complete your project. And so the whole point is actually to have a building that can adapt to change. And this is not that easy. So it's about symbolism, it's about functionality. And you saw in my title, I also have sustainability. And sustainability was embedded in the project from the very early stages. But it became even more important when in 2015 we released a new strategic roadmap, Olympic Agenda 2020. Why? Because sustainability is one of the 3 pillars of this strategic roadmap. So guess what? It was not just about embedding sustainability, it was becoming exemplary. It was about leading, it was about becoming a role model. So it was very much more demanding. And last but not least, I talked to you a little bit about what we have around the building. We have a very public park, and we have been 100 years located in Lausanne. And we have a very close relationship with the local authorities and our surroundings and the local population. So for us, it was extremely important as well that we would manage well this link with the surroundings and the local population. So bear with me. Symbolism, we talked about it. We were very lucky to choose at the end of the international competition and the parallel study 3XN, a Danish architect, was putting a lot of emphasis on user experience. But they were also very good at interpreting Olympism in a very symbolic and simple way. They actually designed the facade, which is completely curved, based on the athletes in movement, in motion. You see the stop and go picture that you can take when you look at this picture on the right. It inspired the facade. So the facade is completely curved. And you will see it as an importance because you mentioned earlier that round shapes are much more inviting. There are no angles in the building. Everything is rounded, from the facade to the staircase, you will see. And it does have an effect on how people interact, but also on acoustics, and actually a lot of different aspects of the quality of space. Collaboration and human excellence. At the center of the building, we have what we call the unity staircase. Why is it at the center? Because we want to encourage people to move, obviously. And this is a very smooth staircase. The steps are actually half the size of a normal step. So you can walk in and talk to someone without losing your breath. Even if you have knee problems like me, you can walk down without any problem. So it's really made on purpose to make it very functional for people to move. And you see again, all this is curved. And by the way, it was really important for us as a sport organization that we would encourage people to move in the space at large. Not just at their desk, but in the space. And everything has been designed so that people move. And all those who have connected watches, and like me, have seen from day one that they were actually walking the 10,000 steps that we need to walk to be at least at the same level of health in the evening that we came in the morning. And this is a very important piece in the building. Flexibility and agility. You know what? The good thing about not knowing anything about architecture is I could challenge and ask really crazy questions. So when the civil engineer came to me with a lot of pillars in the workplace, I told them it's not going to work because it's going to go against the flexibility concept. And they tried to explain to me why we had so many columns because we had a parking in the underground. I said, okay, forget about the parking. Just think about the workplace, and I don't want any column in the 8-meter zone to the facade. Why? Because this is where you have the best light. So this is where you want to organize in the most flexible way. And by the way, I want the limited number of column and structural elements in the whole work plan. And this is how we got rid of column one by one, and we found a solution, a structural solution, with a facade that plays its role, the 4 cores, and the staircase. So by removing a lot of structural elements, obviously you increase flexibility, but you also need some more technical elements. So we have a very technical ceiling and a very technical, and also a floor that is very technical, and a very small grid. So every 90 centimeters, we can actually move partition and move offices on whole floor plan. Commitment to sustainability. We are both local and global. So we aimed at the highest certification, both globally and locally. Locally, we were a pilot project for the latest certification that was released by the Swiss Confederation. We were the second building certified at the level, at the platinum level for this certification, just after the Swiss Confederation. And at the international level, we went for LEED. It's not U-LEED, but V4 is much more complex than V3, so we went for V4, and we actually achieved the highest score worldwide, 93 points. So you see that we really set the bar very high. And what did it do to a project? It forced us to really think about sustainability in everything we did. We may not have the highest score in every dimension, but we looked at the landscape from a sustainable standpoint. We looked at how we developed the mobility solution from a sustainable standpoint. We looked at the energy efficiency of the building, where we are going to save 60% water and reduce by 35% the energy needs. We looked at the user comfort. We looked at any product coming in the building to reduce the toxic substance. to increase air quality. Everything has been looked at from a sustainability standpoint. I mentioned it to you, respectful integration into our environment was extremely important. You see at the forefront a playground that we contributed to finance because a lake pumping station, which is going to pump 1 kilometer away from the shore in the lake, cool water to cool a building, was going through this playground. So we decided actually to renovate it and to make it bigger. And we worked with the local authorities to actually enhance the public park and align the timing with the opening of a building. And I was actually very glad that we could open the park before a building. It was an important sign for us, to the local community. We opened it the day before with a public race, and someone actually from the public came to me and said, by the way, for how long has this building been around? And for me, it was a criteria of a success to integrate this building into its environment. So you see here a few pictures. So we opened the building end of May after testing it with the ambassadors for 1 month. And we wanted the building to be occupied before the official opening, which is very symbolic because it happened on the 125th anniversary of the creation of the IOC. And you see also the picture of the open days, because for us it was extremely important as well to welcome the local population so that they knew what was going on in this building, which is not public because it's a building that is for the governance of the Olympic movement, but because it's so emblematic in the small city of Lausanne, we wanted to give them a chance to know what it was like inside. Let's now have a look at a short video explaining a little bit the point of view of our leadership and a few others.
A pillar of the reforms of Olympic Agenda 2020 is good governance. And an important part of good governance is efficiency. And you can only manage such an important organization like the IOC in the most efficient way when you have all the staff together under one roof and working closely together.
This is really close to what we envisioned.
It's all about humanity. It's all about performance. It's all about greater energy. And most importantly, it's about transforming the world.
C'est vraiment une très grande réussite architecturale.
It's thought of being a building for the people who are going to work here. It's designed around a lot of different components. If you start from the outside, the design is made in such a way that it links in with the parks around. The shape is kind of fluid in the way that it's designed. We wanted to create a facade that is almost like a stop-motion movie. It kind of captures a move from one to another. The rings plays a double role. It plays the role of telling a story of a key thing for the IOC, the 5 rings. But in this case, it's also a key thing that makes the building work, because this is actually the piece that connects the floor. Everything is possible to move around here, so it's possible to change the space a lot. So over time, it's possible to move furniture around, sit and group in different ways, and that will change over time, we believe. It's a flexible space, but it also a place or a space that divides up a fairly big building in quite a lot of small areas, small neighborhoods that are different from places to place. And that is also key, I believe, for the people who's going to work here. So you don't feel that you sit in a big open space just somewhere, but actually have a lot of nice corner locations close to the facade where they can get something out of this fantastic location.
It's a phenomenal achievement and also a milestone for the global green building movement. What it actually means is that LEED buildings are about leadership. But when you try to attempt platinum, you are going for extraordinary leadership. You're trying to define what's possible. Now, examples and inspirations like this will help us to really build the case for a carbon neutral world. The Olympic House is about thinking about our children, thinking about our future generations, and importantly, leaving the world in a better place than we can all actually inherit it.
C'est évidemment un symbole très fort de la présence du CIO qui est là depuis plus d'1 siècle à Lausanne. Ensuite, c'est un bâtiment splendide qui est inséré dans un parc qui est cher aux Lausannoises et Lausannois. Il y a beaucoup de monde qui vient ici le week-end. Donc c'est vraiment un objet qui fait partie de la ville. Et donc ça, il témoigne de cette relation aussi forte qu'on entretient avec le CIO depuis longtemps.
Olympic House represents our commitment to strengthen the role of sport in society. It's a demonstration of our commitment to a sustainable development for the sake of future generations.
Something that I found interesting was the mayor of Lausanne that is featured in this video. He came into the building, one of the first to visit, and he said, you know, I have the feeling that I'm walking in 3Ds. But it's even better than the 3Ds. So I have a certain pride that actually we delivered very close to what we designed with a user group and colleagues. If you see on the top, this where there is 3Ds, this is a reality. It's extremely close, and I hope and I feel really it's better. Now, Catherine is going to show you through a few illustrations, what she feels as an architect and anthropologist is interesting in a project.
Thank you, Marie. So I've just pulled out a few elements that we found extremely important. And as you can see, the staircase, I mean, a lot of us are speaking about the staircase, but the staircase is just the most vital point of the whole building, I would say, because it has to be extremely intuitive. And this is one of the first reasons why also this project was chosen. And it supports, on top of it, this active lifestyle, and it really shapes new behavior. I mean, that was one of the key elements also, is how can you make space that shapes behavior without people feeling manipulated, without people feeling, intruded in their own ways of working. So this was really very important, because the staircase is that disruptive element that is bringing people to really see the workplace very differently, because they see different people. So that was the first important thing. And then adjacent to these staircase is when you arrive on the landing area, we had to create a very special element also, which we call community spaces. So it was about how can you make spaces where you have these new experiences? Because alongside the facade, you have all the more, I would say, typical workplaces, which are all arranged in neighborhoods. But then it was more, how can you step out of the staircase and what happens? Is it just saying, oh, hi, I'm in the same building? No, you want people to have the right places where they can be creative, not just on work, but on being. So on each floor, we created a different type of space. Also, the idea was, how can you bring also corporate identity, which was very important, because it was not about making, all the symbols everywhere. The funny thing also is that IOC has the same colors than Google, and we wanted to make sure that we were not going to be a Google space. So it was, how can we bring that? So there was a lot of work also on how can you bring corporate identity but still be very discreet. It's not about pushing things into people's face. So as you can see in these pictures, there's a few items that remind, fields of play, track routes, and different elements. The other element also that was very important is transparency. Transparency was a key item to start with sustainable labels that we were aiming at, because especially with LEED, we had to have more or less a completely transparent building. But that's not enough. It's it also, what did it, what was it going to bring to people, and how were they going to live with it, and what is it that it's going to bring you? So it was really translated as a way of working. Of course, it helped all the leaders being in a much more transparent space. It also helped the staff to know much more about what's happening in the building. And there's one thing a manager told me, which I think was great, is when they moved in, he said, I feel so much more comfortable because now I can see all the different teams working. So my trust level is growing up, and I don't need to go and check, have you done this or have you done that? So just by seeing people, working within these different teams would really be helpful. The only element that can bring some kind of separate elements are plants. As you can see, there's lots of different plants across the building. Lots of them are movable, so people can also, make their own space the way they want, and curtains that can open and close. So it was but it looks simple, but it was a big fight to get people to accept that they will be the ones who will have to, bring the plants or turn the curtains. Another element also that was very architectural and sustainable, but that brings completely different ways of working, is the quality of daylight and also the quality views. With LEED, we had to guarantee that every single workspace where you spend more than an hour, so more or less it's everywhere in the building, you would have 2 quality views. So 2 quality views means that you have to look outside, not on an atrium. You have to have views outside to the nature. So that was also something that really helped in providing an excellent workspace, and therefore, again, an excellent experience. I would say the building itself has a lot of different qualities that I'm not going to go through. One of the very important thing is that for the people there, it was completely a new scale of open plan. Just to give you an example, 200 people today are on 1 floor. Before, they were in 1 building on 4 to 5 floors. So just this got them really scared to come into the space, and it was very important that we could also allow that they have some kind of control of their area. So what was offered was the fact that you can bring down the
shades.
Yeah, the shades on a location of 4 workstations. You can also different the temperature level by 2 degrees, more or less. And you can also activate the lights in the ceiling by 3 different levels. So the idea was that people are happy because they have some kind of control on their own space. Something that we see in a lot of workspaces, but I would still say this is extremely important, is the variety of space. So it's about, of course, standing up, sitting, being able to be in larger groups, in smaller groups. You have to give all that variety, and we did a lot of work, in fact, on that. But what's extremely important is to let people be creative about the way they want to work. It's not about having only one way to do things in this one typical space. And this is something that has already been working extremely well. There's no indication, there's not written focus work in this room or whatever. You can see, for example, here, the example of this girl who is doing focus work, standing up on the edge of this community table right in the middle of a very large space, whereas you can also have all kinds of different people working together. Same with the staircase. The staircase is not only a space for also working, but it could be for working meetings, for walking meetings, it could be for all kinds of things. And what's extremely interesting is that people are very creative about it. Therefore, they feel this is their space. And that's, I think, where we've won a lot. Outdoor work was also something extremely important. So it's not just about being mobile, having your laptop, having Wi-Fi everywhere, but it's about, again, creating a destination, a place that is really about working. So There's a whole working terrace where you can actually have meetings, where you can have you can work also on your own. It's directly related to a workplace. It's not the terrace of the cafeteria, or it's not the terrace of the front door. It's a proper working terrace where people can really come and work. Therefore, they really use it for that. Sports also is very important. But it's not just indoor sports, it's also all the outside sports that people could do. So these are just one of the elements.
Thank you, Catherine. So if you want to know more about all these human stories behind the project, you can go to our website, Olympic House at olympic.org. And we have actually a book that is on an e-zine, you can read, which tells you about all the stories. Obviously, we cannot resume in only 15-20 minutes, 7 years of work, but just in case, you can have a look. Any questions before lunch? So we have actually been working very closely with the association in charge of disability in Switzerland. And we have actually a few staff who are disabled and in wheelchairs. And everything is accessible. And actually I went to them after 2 months to ask, those who have these disabilities, how they were feeling. And they said everything is perfect. The only small comment we had was in the cafeteria, in a single place, that the glasses were not reachable enough. So that's, I think, a good feedback after a few weeks of operation.
And I would add, you're right, the idea, but everything was thought like that. Even the front desk has 2 different levels so that people can feel very also welcome when they come in. But it's true that, as someone was saying earlier, the key thing was when you come in, the first thing you see is the staircase. It's not the lifts. The lifts are just there, very close by, very easy, handy, but it's not about that.
Thank you.